So you have a tender read and you love overlanding. You have plans to do it big on the trails and some super glamping. One ideas, deep news and reviews, a podcast the first rate and here just for you. You don't have to think about it, join us and be about it. Something interesting we want to hear about it, come on let's talk about it. Welcome to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints podcast.
Sponsored by MIDLAND Communication for Every Adventure, the industry leader in radio communication technology and innovation for over 50 years. Sponsored by MyMedic. Sponsored by Tembo Tusk. Sponsored by Shower Pouch. Sponsored by DeMoss Collective, mission built and made for mobility. Sponsored by BrewTrek. Sponsored by Hard Impact Designs.
Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Random Waypoints show. My co-host Mike Ladden, and we have a special guest, Frank Ledwell from OutdoorX4 Magazine. If you aren't aware of OutdoorX4 Magazine, we're going to get into detail about what it's all about. But speaking for myself, I've been a long-time subscriber. There's some of the most excellent outdoor vehicle stories that you can read. If you're an overlander, if you're a nomad, living the van life, whatever it is, if you're getting out there in a vehicle, this is the magazine that you want to subscribe to. Welcome to the show, Frank.
Phil, thanks for having me, and thanks for the kind words. I'm beyond thankful for your long-term support over the years as a subscriber to the magazine and as a enthusiast who has really been an important part of continuing to grow this community. So thanks.
I appreciate that. So we're going to start from the beginning. Where were you born and raised?
Oh, so we're going way back. All right.
All the way back.
All the way back. So I was born and raised just north of Houston, Texas. I'm 45 now. My mother is from Mexico City. My father was a native of Houston, and really neat story to kind of. I know this kind of completely diverts from the original question, but my parents' story is really unique. My father, he was an only child. His mother passed away when he was 8 years old, and it was just him and his father growing up. And so they developed a really close relationship. My father was salutatorian of his high school class, was a Marine, went off to college, was a Rhodes Scholar at the University of Texas at Austin, and in his last semester at UT Austin, his father got sick, and he dropped out of school to take care of his dad. 5 years later, his father passed away. My dad went back to just finish his degree. And that first Christmas after his father had passed away, my dad and his best friend at the time decided that they wanted to get out. They wanted to explore and do something new. And so they drove my dad's Pontiac, I forget which model Pontiac it was, but it was a 1969 Pontiac. They hopped in the car and drove the Pan American Highway down to Mexico City. And they got to Mexico City, and they didn't have a place to stay. They hadn't planned what they were going to do, where they were going to stay. I mean, they just got in the car and they just drove. So they get to Mexico City, and then as it turns out, somehow my father's friend knew my grandmother. And of course, at the time, she wasn't my grandmother. There was no relation or whatnot. But they had gone to Mexico City. They were looking for a place to stay. And so my dad's friend reached out to my grandmother to see if she had a recommendation for a hotel. My grandmother's angel of a woman, naturally her response was, well, come stay with me. And so my father and his best friend went to go stay at my grandmother's home there in Mexico City. And that's when my dad met my mother. and they wound up dating long term for 2 years. My father going back to Mexico to visit her regularly, and her coming on occasion to the U.S. But they dated for about 2 years. They married in 1973, and then I was born 4 years later. They moved to Houston about 3 months before I was born, and so it kind of, I know that I diverted from your original question, but the Pan American travels that my father and his best friend had and did together back in 1969 was the catalyst that led to me coming along. And I think maybe in some sort of subconscious way or whatnot, probably led to what I do today. So,
and how and that's would be my next question is, how did he get to OutdoorX4? So where's the connection there?
Wow. Okay.
How did you come upon this?
Well, that's another. I'll try to give you guys a 10 peso version here. So, I went off to school. I got a degree in economics. Had a corporate career in accounting and finance. And after about 5 or 6 years, I had recognized, actually it was much sooner than that, I realized pretty early on that's not what I want to do for the rest of my career, for the rest of my adult life. In high school, I was very much interested in journalism. I was feature editor for the school newspaper. I was a member of the yearbook staff. I had given strong consideration to going to school for journalism. And eventually I wound up going to school with the idea of going to medical school and becoming a doctor. My junior year in college, I had to take an economics class for my degree plan. And somehow crazily fell in love with economics, wound up getting a degree in that. Got into the corporate world, realized that's not really what I wanted to do. In the back of my mind, I had always enjoyed writing and photography. And so my best friend at the time, he and I started getting out, and on weekends we'd get together and go into the Texas Hill Country, and we'd shoot landscape photography. And we started taking some photography classes, and then we decided after a while maybe we should chronicle some of the things that we like doing. We loved being outside, hiking, mountain biking, exploring in our vehicles. We had spent a summer in college back in '99 working in Colorado, Estes Park, the YMCA, the Rockies. Spent the whole summer in the mountains, and that was my love for the mountains started was that summer. And anyway, so fast forward to 2006, we were looking for an outlet to just kind of break the daily grind of our day jobs, and we launched a fully digital Jeep lifestyle magazine that over the next 6.5 years really became my passion, and it really launched my publishing career, and eventually led to Outdoor.X4 being launched in 2013. The premise of that digital lifestyle magazine is kind of evolved and really became what Outdoor.X4 is today, which is a vehicle-based outdoors lifestyle title that celebrates and focuses on utilizing vehicles to get out and explore, but also utilizing vehicles as a means to go access a trailhead, to go mountain biking or hiking or backpacking or rock climbing, paddling, pretty much anything outdoors related.
Just getting out and doing this stuff.
Just getting out and doing the things that we, as from my experiences and my close friends over the years, the things that we love doing, and it just kind of manifested and matriculated in what we're doing now.
So I know for a fact that being in media, one of the hardest challenges is when you have hard end dates, media dates. How do you deal with that challenge, knowing that you have to put out a magazine every month?
It's constant content and constant deadlines.
Yeah, obviously as the publisher, I get pulled in a lot of directions, and so there are challenges from that perspective. I mean, we're fully independent. We've always been. It's our intention to always be that way. Admittedly, it's my team. Our social media editor, who's off camera right now, has been an integral part of just kind of helping to manage components of our digital delivery. That's allowed me to focus more on the content creation component as an editor, pulling and creating the content, working with our freelancers, working with our staff writers, seeking out fresh and engaging content from a variety of sources, whether it's through social channels, whether it's through video channels, or relationships that we develop at events like this. I mean, Overland Expo over the years, we've been here for 10 years now, has been an important part of our networking with fellow enthusiasts whose travels have been worthwhile stories that we featured in the magazine throughout the year. So that's helped a lot. We also we just have a great team. My creative director does a phenomenal job of designing and laying out the magazine each issue, and doesn't require any oversight from me. She has complete creative freedom and just does a bang-up job every issue. We've got columnists located throughout the country. Jonathan Hansen, he and his wife were the original founders of Overland Expo, has been our Overland columnist since issue 1. He's been a tremendous asset to the magazine and our storytelling, and helped bring instant credibility to the title when we launched 10 years ago. So for me, I'm just kind of maybe the glue that holds it together, but there's no way OutdoorX4 would be possible without the awesome team that I've got. There's just no way that it would be possible. And so really, the focus should really be on them. I'm here visiting with you guys, but it's really the team that should be getting all the credit. I'm just the one that helps kind of put it all together. So.
And I'm assuming you have a pretty tight team. It's not a huge amount of people, right?
We don't have a large core team. We have 6 of us that are full-time on staff. Most everybody else is freelance. But the freelancers that we've had working with us, and even our team, are people that have been writing for us and working with us for years and years. We've had very little change in our core team because we all love what we do, and we work well together. And I think it's exhibited in the magazine and the way that our editorial approach is done. We designed the magazine, our intent was from the very beginning to be a title that's relatable, that anybody can pick up the magazine and say, oh, I can go do this. And that's been a really, really important part of our identity. And I think as such, having that relatability and a very down-to-earth focus in our storytelling has, I think, been critical in our team being virtually unchanged these 10 years.
I don't think you should change anything. Sometimes I'll read an article and maybe a person is going on a trip, and I've read previous articles where someone's taken a similar trip, but the story is totally different,
right? Yeah.
And enthralling.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. If a lot of the adventure destination pieces that we feature, there are a myriad of things. Our focus is domestically here in the U.S., given 95% of our readership is here. And so that's been our editorial focus. We do sprinkle international content from time to time to be more aspirational in its approach. But our editorial approach has always been relatable content that people can do here. But that being said, there have been, there's so much that we can do here in the States, but there admittedly have been a number of times when we've featured stories from certain areas on several occasions, but maintaining a freshness to it and a different perspective or editorial angle to really kind of enliven or expand upon the opportunities in a certain area. That I think really has complemented previous versions of maybe a similar story in a way that makes it unique in its own, but also engaging in a way that ties into maybe a way that we've approached it previously. So we try to keep our content nice and fresh, again, relatable, and naturally, there have been times, like I said, we've featured stories from the same regions of areas that we featured before, but keeping it fresh and unique is really helping that. Keeping it unique.
I have a question. This is my curiosity, and maybe the listeners will have the same curiosity. As you flip through the magazine, it's always just gorgeous photographs, and the cover just always just pulls you in with that cover shot. Is there any retouching that do you guys take the photos and then you do anything to them, or that's how they come?
Virtually every image that we feature in the magazine, unless the creator of the image has done something to the image to brighten it up or to adjust the lighting, we rarely have ever had to do anything like that. Again, that ties into our core identity also with respect to our editorial and maintaining integrity with our content, and that includes our imagery as well. We don't do anything with the imagery once we receive it. We have a great network of contributors who are just really good at what they do, and it's exhibited in the way that it's laid out in the magazine. So again, it's a real tribute to those who contribute to the magazine, my creative director and our team, to take what we receive and turn it into something that people can relax and enjoy and relate to, and I think experience through the storytelling and the way that it's laid out in the magazine. So, short answer to your question is we don't do anything with the images. We've never had to. I guess if items are revised or adjusted in the imagery, it's done by the creator itself and not by us.
You've had the opportunity to hear a lot of stories. What's one that sticks out to you?
Oh gosh. Man, where do I begin? That's again the beauty of attending an event like this. I've made it a point all these years of maintaining a presence here at the booth, and I love that because I get the opportunity to visit and meet all sorts of unique people. One thing I've learned in my years is that everybody has a story. Everybody has experienced or done something that's unique to them, and because of that, there are unlimited opportunities to share stories from anybody and everybody. To focus on maybe one particular one that really stands out, probably the most recent one that really stuck out for me. I had a really nice visit with a gentleman named Eric Highland, who we've been connected with socially, digitally for years, and finally had an opportunity to meet in person yesterday. Eric and his family have a very unique story. Eric was a federal agent, I believe. He worked for the government, traveling all over the world, chasing down bad guys. And wound up transitioning what he does into taking a break from all of that and traveling the world with his wife and his young son. I think his son, if I recall, is 4 or 5 years old. He might be a little bit older than that. And Eric will have to forgive me for not remembering exactly how old his son, but he's got a young son. His son has been traveling with them since he was very little. So throughout his formative years, his experiences have been seeing and doing things in countries where the culture, the social experience is vastly different than it is here in the States. And so he's had, as a young boy, a tremendous opportunity to really experience the world around him and not form opinions about how people look or how people think, because he's been surrounded by a myriad of different experiences that have really helped in his own formative outlook on life. And Eric and I were talking about some of these experiences just yesterday, actually. And there was one story that he told me that I thought really stuck out, which was when they were in Ecuador recently. And Eric, he and his family had gotten to their vehicle. They'd had a really difficult time trying to navigate through some of the issues that they were going through getting to Ecuador, and so he had some natural frustrations. And we all go through frustrations.
Especially when you're traveling.
Oh, and when you're traveling, I mean, everything is so unexpected. And so you have to learn to navigate through some of the challenges that you're going to deal with. And you can't really plan for everything. As much as you try to, you can't plan for all of it. So anyway, he was telling me that they had been dealing with a myriad of just frustrations. He specifically was frustrated. And so they were driving, and they were tired. And anyway, they came to an area where they came across a little boy who was sitting in an empty building. The little boy had on, I think he said, a yellow T-shirt and was in his underwear. And he was completely by himself. There were no adults. There was nobody around. It was just this little boy. And he was in this empty building playing with a couple of rocks. And he had the biggest smile on his face. And Eric told me, and he started to get a little bit emotional about it. And I was starting to get a little bit emotional hearing his story when he saw this little boy finding enjoyment out of literally the most simplest thing in a situation where he had nothing but was still happy.
It put so much perspective.
It put a tremendous amount of perspective, and I really, I know it for him, it completely changed his outlook. And he went from being frustrated and upset with the situation that he was dealing with, driving a vehicle that's been completely outfitted with all these things that he's got, having everything that he needed, food in the back, and when he saw this little boy with nothing, and just finding happiness and enjoyment in the simplest of things, like his outlook completely changed, and that resonated with me, because I think that we have a tendency of taking for granted the things that we have, and for me especially, like, I get up every day and I think to myself, I am absolutely blessed that I get to do what I do, and I love what I do. Not everybody can say that, and I've really made it a core point of who I am to never take anything for granted, whether it's what I do for a living with the Outdoor.4, the magazine, or my family, because one thing that I've learned from all my travels as well has been that there are so many people out there that don't have it nearly as nice as we do. I'm looking out right now at all these nicely built out vehicles and all the things that are out here at this event, and all of this stuff is nice and it's great. It's not necessary. And this little boy sitting in an empty building, playing with 2 rocks and finding happiness in that. That's all you need. You just need happiness and love and being thankful for the experiences that you have and the things that you have, and it's easy to sometimes lose track of that. So that's one story that has really resonated with me, and that's one of literally, if not hundreds, maybe thousands of stories I've heard over the years.
I love it. I love it.
Really, what makes all of this unique.
What do you think about this weekend's event?
Well, I'll be honest. It started off on Friday fantastic. I was shocked how many people were walking through on Friday morning, and the weather was fantastic. I thought this is going to be a great weekend until about 11:30, 12 o'clock, and then all of a sudden hell broke loose.
Hail.
The hail came down. The temperature dropped 25 degrees or so, and the rain was just constant the whole afternoon. And quite honestly, by the end of the day, I was pretty deflated. I think a lot of people were kind of deflated.
I had to laugh because it was last year that we were holding your tent down here.
I remember that because there was so much wind out here. It was crazy wind.
Yeah.
We couldn't keep our booth in place. It was just, and we finally just gave up. We're like, okay, you know what? We're going to leave it to Mother Nature, and just whatever happens. But fortunately, that was just Friday. Yeah. On Saturday morning, an all-day Saturday, and even today too, we couldn't have asked for better weather. It's been great. We've had tremendous turnout throughout the venue, throughout the event. The booth and the magazine itself, we've had constant traffic. We've given out virtually every magazine that we brought out, which has been really nice. So from that perspective, it's been a success. Met a lot of wonderful people as always. Got to reconnect with old friends. It's been a great week.
Are you going to Mountain West?
I will be at Mountain West in Colorado. I think that's coming the third weekend of August, somewhere around there. Outdoor.4 Magazine will have a booth there. We've been a title media sponsor of the Overland Expo series now for 10 years. And so we'll be at the Mountain West event. We'll have a little booth set up. We'll have magazines for people to swing by and grab if they like. We won't be at the Northwest event. We'll be there walking the event, but we're not going to have a booth. Logistically from Texas, it's just challenging. And, there are also other events that we are media partners of that we'll be at. So it's hard to be in multiple places.
It's hard to be everywhere at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm stretched thin enough as it is in my capacity as a publisher. But we'll be in Colorado at Mountain West. We'll be walking around at the Pacific Northwest event. We will probably be at the East event in Virginia. We've been at that event every year since the beginning, except for last year and the year before. But I think we're going to probably work our way back to Virginia later this year to participate in that as well.
So I think we got a unique opportunity here. We've all gone to a bunch of these Overland Expo events. I enjoy all of them. That's why I go to all of them. But I know you have a favorite. Which one is your favorite?
Oh, well, I would say probably the Flagstaff event, just because we launched, our first year of Outdoor.4, the first event that we went to and had a presence at was at the Flagstaff event when it was still at Mormon Lake.
I was going to say, it's at Mormon Lake.
Yeah, and so we've had an opportunity to really participate in this event and see its growth over the years, and that's been exciting. This is a community that continues to grow and develop, and it's an important part of the off-road segment. And I think, maybe in some small way, Outdoor.4 has helped be a catalyst in some of that growth. So I would say Flagstaff. this event has gotten really big, and so there is admittedly a component to it that just by virtue of its growth, for better or worse, has changed the dynamics of it. But I still got a lot of enjoyment of coming out here and visiting with old friends, meeting new people, hearing their stories, and getting the chance to reconnect with reading guys.
Okay. I'm going to do a little speed round with you.
Okay.
What's your favorite first meal to eat on the trail?
Okay. Oh gosh. Well, I tell you what. I have over the years. We still use our Timbo Tuscascatl regularly because it's versatile. We can cook virtually anything on it. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I'm also a big fan of dehydrated meals. I've been using dehydrated meals for 30 plus years, ever since I was a Boy Scout, and then as a young adult, doing a lot of backpacking and mountain biking on long week-long trips. So I guess my favorite first meal, I really like Mountain House. They've got this.
They got some good stuff.
They've got some surprisingly good stuff. Mountain House has gotten really up their game over the last 5 or so years. There are a lot of great competitors. Well, there's I can't say which one would be my favorite, but I like dehydrated meals just because they're quick, they're easy, and they're so much better than they were before.
Less cleanup too, because the bag just sits there. You eat right out of it.
They're easy to clean up. They're easy to eat and enjoy. Yeah, I mean, we have too. I've got a box at the house that sometimes with my wife and her, what she's doing my wife is getting ready to start graduate school, and that's a whole other story that I won't go into right now. But I will say this, as far as my wife is concerned, none of this would have been possible without my wife's support, 100%. If I hadn't had my wife and my family who were supportive of me leaving my corporate career, a good corporate career, dumping our life savings into creating this magazine so they would be fully independent, not relying on any private equity or outside investors or anybody, really putting our heart and soul into it, it wouldn't have been possible. So major props to my wife for that. I really appreciate it. But getting back to the meal part, we have a box of a variety of dehydrated meals, and there are times when with kids having things going on, my wife being busy, me having things that are busy and going on, we'll just whip up some dehydrated meals and we've got dinner in 8 minutes. So I don't know that I specifically answered your question, but in short, I would probably say this: any sort of dehydrated meal that's quick and easy to fix, that tastes good, and especially in the morning, have to have coffee. Gotta have coffee.
Okay, the next question is, so when you do a trail, what's your favorite geography? Is it desert? Is it mountains? What's your favorite geography?
I love desert terrain. There's something magical to me about the desert, especially the West Texas desert. My first real experiences being outdoors as a young kid in the Boy Scouts was in the Davis Mountains of West Texas, and which is in the Chihuahuan Desert and adjacent to the Big Bend region of the state. To me, there's just something about the desert terrain, its ruggedness, but there's a rugged beautiness about it that makes it such a unique experience. I live just north of Houston, so in that area it's dense forest. We have the Sam Houston National Forest, a lot of pine trees, thick forests. So I have an affinity for heavily forested areas as well. But there is something to me that's just magical about being in the desert. And the Chihuahuan Desert especially is such a unique place with a lot of history that goes back 250 million years. It's just a really unique area. So yeah, I would say desert.
Okay. And what is on your bucket list for a trip?
I have always wanted to, and it's funny you mentioned that. When my wife and I married, we sat down and we wrote out a bucket list of all the things we wanted to do before we pass on. And it hasn't just been travel. Some of it's been music. We love music. We wanted to see U2 live, and we had a chance to see U2 during their Joshua Tree Tour 2017. That was a bucket list item. One of the things that's still on our list is to do a hike up to Everest Base Camp. I was big into mountaineering and rock climbing before I married, and I still enjoy hiking and getting out on my mountain bike and doing cycling. My wife and I have always wanted to do a trek to Everest Base Camp, and ironically enough, our newest issue 49, features a story about hiking to Everest Base Camp, and that kind of reignited that flame, that desire for me. So I would love to do that. I'd love to fly to Kathmandu and really take in the culture in Nepal, and then do a trek up to Everest Base Camp.
I would think with the magazine and people constantly coming up, because there's always a crowd at your area. When people ask you, they're newbies, they say, hey, I'm a newbie, and any advice, what would be a quick couple of sentences of advice you'd give to somebody that comes to these events, they're curious, they don't know what direction they want to go? What initial advice would you give them?
That's a great question. I always tell people, you don't have to have all this stuff. The narrative doesn't need to be that you need a big, expensive vehicle, that you need expensive gear, that you have to go to some far-off location in order to be able to enjoy the world around you. All you really need is just a desire to step out your front door.
You've got to do it. You've got to do it.
You've got to step out your front door, and if you're willing to do that, have a desire to engage with the world around you. Again, you don't need all this stuff. You just need to have that desire. And then, if you get to a point where, you're wanting to get a vehicle and you're wanting to outfit it, I mean, really, first of all, deciding like how you're going to use it. Not everybody needs 35-inch tires and, big suspension lift. Not everybody needs, heavy bumpers and all that stuff. Now, admitted, the vehicle that we're sitting in front of right now has some of those things.
This is a beast.
But that's also based on how we travel as a family and how I explore. But not everybody needs that. So maybe, focus your time on figuring out, first of all, how you're going to travel. Once you figure that out,
how many people, what's your comfort level? I mean, it goes on and on.
And then once you figured out how you're going to travel, learn how to use the vehicle that you have. I actually recommend that people go take go take an off-road driving class. If you're going to be driving off-road, go take a class to learn how to drive off pavement. Learn how to do vehicle recovery. Then once you figure that out, and once you figured out how you're going to travel, then you can build the vehicle that you have, or get another vehicle that meets that need. But everybody has their own needs. You definitely don't have to have all this stuff, though, in order to be able to get out and explore. And I think it's important for people to recognize that you don't have to have a big wallet in order to get into what this term overlanding has become. You just need to have the desire to get out and explore, and if you have that, take it from there.
And you heard it from him.
Right.
You heard from Phil and I every week. We
talk about this all the time.
And not everybody, particularly in my realm of publishing, would necessarily agree with that for a myriad of reasons, and I understand that. But for me personally, and based on my myriad of experiences, I just feel like it's not necessary to have all this stuff in order to be able to get out and enjoy it.
I agree. But there's a myriad of examples right in your magazine where people are doing the most outstanding, excellent, amazing trips, and very minimalist. Their vehicles are like minimalist.
Yeah, well, I mean, that I think complements what I just said. I mean, you don't have to have all this stuff. Now, naturally, Outdoor.X4, we are a diverse title in terms of our editorial approach, so sure, we feature stories that include vehicles that are very nicely built that could literally travel the world and be completely self-sufficient, but we also have a myriad of stories that, the focus is not necessarily the vehicle. Usually it's not the vehicle the focus, it's the experience.
Yeah,
and,
as it should be.
And oftentimes those experiences are with vehicles that are very minimal. I mean, quite honestly, my vehicle, given in the way that it's been built out, is generally minimal compared to a lot of the vehicles that are out there. There's very little that stands out about my vehicle other than some of the little accessories that I've got on it. There are a number of people out there that have vehicles that are not, they're not outfitted with all this stuff, but they're still getting out and they're doing things, and that's because they have a desire to explore the world around them, and they find a way to make it work, and I think that's all you need. So.
And with that said, I love a pretty rig.
Sure.
I admire them. I just
variety is the spice of life.
Right.
There's stuff for everybody.
Hey, if you can afford it, go get it, but you don't need it.
You don't need it. No. If you're able to do it, and that meets your needs, then all to you. I think that's great, but you don't have to have all this stuff in order to really enjoy exploring the world around you. And I think once you recognize that, then that's the most important catalyst in getting that.
Is there something I should have asked you, but I didn't know to ask you?
Oh, there's something you're asking me? I mean, not really. I would say, Outdoor by 4 is, we are, for all better terms, we're a community-based title. Again, with a focus of relatability. I'm thankful that we have a great team. We have a readership that has been loyal. We've had a number of story ideas that have evolved from conversations that I've had at events like this. One of our readers, Mr. Krug, I won't mention his first name, but Mr. Krug, he stops by her booth every year, and for years he's been telling me, Frank, you need to add maps to your stories. You need to have your contributors provide some contextual graphics that show where a story is taking place. And so I recognized that we needed to do that. I've been recognizing it for years, and we just hadn't done it. And he kept telling me every year, you come by the booth, he said, Frank, I'm not going to renew my subscription until you guys start putting maps. So we've done that. We've partnered with Onyx Off-Road to help us develop the maps that we feature in the magazine with an engagement that allows people to see a visual map of the locations that we go to, but then be able to scan a QR code that will take them to that location and that route, in the Onyx app. So, over these 10 years, the magazine has continually evolved. We have to evolve in order to meet how people are ingesting content. And the uniqueness of having a print magazine that's tangible, that people can touch and hold and feel, that's, in my opinion, helps us kind of differentiate ourselves from all the noise that's out there, has helped make us really unique. So there's not really anything else that I would say regarding who we are as a title. We're thankful for the people who read the magazine, who contribute to the magazine, and if they want to learn more, go to our website and read our content. If you got a really cool story to tell, reach out. We'd love to share it.
So how would people get a subscription? Where do they go to? Give us your social media.
So you can go to our website. It's www.OutdoorX4.com. Follow us on social. We're on all the major social channels. It's at OutdoorX4.
There'll be something right here.
It's actually right here.
Okay. You can subscribe to the magazine through our website. You can attend an event like Overland Expo. We're here all weekend. You can get a subscription in person. You can call us. Our number's on our website. That's how to do it.
It's great for reading in camp. Sit in your camp and read some good stories.
Thanks. Well, I hope we're doing something right. We're in our 10th year now, so I guess we're doing at least one thing right. So
I want to thank you for sitting down and talking with us.
I appreciate it.
I know you're a busy man, especially at this event. So I appreciate you taking this time with us.
Well, it's always a pleasure, Phil. You and I have had an opportunity to visit off and on over the years, and it's a pleasure to visit with you and both of you guys. And I appreciate the time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet.
Anything you want to say, Mike?
No. I mean, next time you get an opportunity to come down and meet Frank at any one of these kind of shows, be sure to do it.
Yeah, please stop by. I'd love to visit with you.
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully I'll see you here or on the trail soon.